Hello and welcome to the Digital Disruptors Podcast. I'm Brad Burrow, and today we have Michael Gansman with us. He's the founder and principal of the Gansman Group. And I grabbed a quote from your website. You probably saw that up there. It says, it's not really a quote, it's kind of your line, but it says, acquire new clients and drive increased revenue.
Yeah.
Music to my ears.
Excellent.
That's what I need to do.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you being on the podcast. David and I have worked a lot together on the digital marketing side of things, and adding video content to the digital marketing mix is when you combine that with what Techie does. We're having a lot of success with a lot of the clients that we're working with.
Yeah.
You think about the younger audiences. Didn't mean to go into this, but the younger audiences don't read.
Right. Correct.
They have to be given their content visually.
Yeah.
And I believe that if you're not kind of up to speed with that as a brand or as a company, that you're missing a lot of opportunities.
I agree.
So you agree with that?
I do agree.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on here with you.
Yeah, it's awesome. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about your background. How you became a fractional chief revenue officer, CRO.
Yeah. There's the shortened story. I graduated Purdue University with a degree in electrical engineering, and Black & Veatch recruited me. So I moved out here 35 years ago, 1990. Worked there for a number of years and enjoyed it. And while I was there, I found I had an ownership desire. So I wanted to be a partner of Black & Veatch because they were a partnership. Well, that wasn't going to happen for at least 20 years because they had a certain methodology. Right. And I thought, that doesn't really work for my timeline. So, some soul searching. And same point in time, I found I had a different skill set than other quote unquote engineering degree people. I love the strategic conversations and being on site with owners and making real-time decisions, being on sixth floor with the partners and project managers. We were doing things that impacted the business. I like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go make a little pivot here. And I actually pivoted to consultative business development so I could work as an advisor or consultant, advising clients on what they need to do for their chosen business and their infrastructure. I enjoyed that. I was very blessed to work for some Fortune 500 companies, as well as some small ones you never heard of. So I could take the best of both and put it together and help a company scale its revenue. Well, I still wanted to push the ownership button. And of course, you're not going to do that in F500, but you can in small ones. Well, the button kept moving. So I finally reached a point kind of later for my halftime that in late 2019, I started working with a coach. It's like, okay, here's what I think I want to do. Let's make sure it's right. And we found each other on LinkedIn, great success, luck thing or God thing, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
He's very adept at doing two things: helping you figure out, should you be an entrepreneur or not? Because it's not for everybody. And number two, what should you do? We tore apart my entire business life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, looked at everything, me as a person.
A little scary.
It is a little scary. I had to look at me from different lenses and go, okay, yeah, I really did that. That's okay, though. Bottom line, he was like, Michael, you've been entrepreneurial for a good 22 plus years at that point, the whole business development and sales marketing leadership roles.
Yeah.
He said, let's figure out what you want to do. And I had a real struggle there, because I loved getting into something new challenge, get my arms around it and figure out a way to make it go like this.
Yeah.
I love that. So I was that guy that wanted to do that, and I didn't want to maintain it once it was grown. I love that. So I thought, well, if I build or buy a company, what happens if I'm done in 3 to 4 years and I want to sell it? I can't just sell it like I'm selling a used car. So that really had me at a crossroads.
Yeah.
He knew about the fractional space and said, have you ever heard about being a fractional executive? No, what is that? We talked through that. The more we talked, the more it made sense, because the desire to come in and work with small to mid-sized business owners, help them scale their revenue and leave it better than when I found it and go on to the next one. So July 29th, 2020 was my launch date.
Oh my goodness.
Right in the middle of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Right in the middle of it.
That's crazy. Yeah, that was a crazy time. A lot of small businesses are, like, what are we doing? How are we going to make it? I remember a little side story. I had a company in here called Premier Sports at the time, and they were an event company, sports event company. Mm-hmm. And I remember the day, because they would do a lot of things with the NCAA and Final Four and stuff like that. Yeah. And Athletes in Action was one of their clients. Mm-hmm. And I remember Gary coming out of our conference room saying they just canceled the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that was March of 2020.
Yeah, and he's like, I mean, his face was white. It's like his whole revenue source had all of a sudden just come to an end.
Yeah.
And that was a scary time for a lot of people. Well, obviously.
Yeah, everybody.
Event companies, it's like they lost everything.
Yeah, that's right.
So he survived, but man, I remember that day. I'll never forget it. He just walked out like a ghost.
Yeah, yeah. But when you think about it, that was very disruptive globally, right?
Yeah.
But think about how many companies were started in times of disruption.
Yeah.
I mean, is it the best time, the worst time? I don't know, but it's a time. So, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go and be all in.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So what type of businesses do you usually work with? And at what stage? That's a good question too. It's like what stage of growth? Because probably not startups, right?
Well, they're all at different stages, right? But you know what? When you first start out, you'll take anything.
Yeah.
I just need clients, right? I'll take anything, anybody. I can do this. I've grown so many different styles of firms. But as you evolve over time, mine kind of solidified to really working with technology companies, manufacturing, and professional service companies.
Okay.
That's kind of the first big milestone. And that hit because those are the type of firms that I worked for when I was W-2. So I knew how to scale them, and they scale at different speeds. And by the way, professional service firms really were centered around consulting, engineering, and B2B distribution. Okay. That's evolved and grown over time because I've added other types of clients that are professional service clients, from leadership development. There's been training companies that go with leadership development. And then, oddly enough, the insurance industry, property and casualty underwriting. So had good clients for 4 years in that realm because they're service-based, helping them grow their revenue steadily and sustainably. So it's really been cool.
Yeah. Do you find that your background as an engineer, I mean, that's unique for a salesperson. Not to say salesperson, that's not the best way to describe what you do. But, in business development side of things, having that engineering foundation, has that helped you or made you different than other people?
It definitely has elevated my game. Because the way my brain is wired, that side is that analytical side, which is drawn to the engineering, made me very process-driven, very diagnostic-oriented. So that's why whenever I come in and meet, a CEO of a prospect company, I'm asking questions and questions and questions to understand and peel this onion to figure out where they're really at. It's served me very well. Because when I get into it, I'm all about them and their challenges and where they're at and they want to get to. So I love the engineering foundation I have, that it's served me so well for 35 years. So it's
unique, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can't recall a lot of people that have those two.
A lot of people that have that technical side, they're not really into being people.
Right.
So they want to do their thing and being technical. That wasn't me. Like I figured I would just go berserk if I just sat in a cube all day.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I have a different skill set. But you asked the question about what stage companies do I work with. You got three basic stages. You got startup, you got scaling, then you got exiting. And there's delineations underneath, right? So my firm will work with companies that are basically a well-funded startup up until they're almost ready to exit. Okay, well-funded, like for example, a good seed or Series A, Series B. They have some good funding. They've got traction. They've got employees. Scaling stage, we're talking anywhere from the $3 million to about $35 million size companies. So small to mid-sized market.
Yeah.
And then eventually there will be some type of exit, whether it's a privately held company by a family that goes to the next generation, or someone does want to do an outright sell, or they go to ESOP. There always can be an exit in mind, which is one of the things we key on, because you and I grew up in the Stephen Covey area. It was begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Where do you want to get to? Okay, then let's work it backwards and make sure we can get there. So I've got a nice variance of stages I can work with.
Do you find that most entrepreneurs aren't thinking that way?
Begin with the end in mind?
Yeah.
No, they're not. Most of them don't.
I don't.
They don't. It's amazing. The one question I ask, in addition to many, is, what's your exit strategy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have one. So many owners, they get to a point where they've ran so hard for so many years, they hit the wall and they're like, I'm done, just take it. So it takes some planning and foresight, so you have things in place. So, but it's very important because we're going to scale their revenue. It's going to help to add to their valuation of their company.
Darn
okay.
Right.
And then, let's make sure there's other things in place. So when you want to exit, you can exit on your terms.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, that's great. So we read that you're a roll up the sleeves type of executive leader. What does that mean?
Yeah. Being a fractional chief revenue officer is so much different than a consultant, okay? Because a consultant, they come in, they try to advise, they never get their hands dirty. They don't get involved in the execution. As a fractional chief revenue officer, I get involved in the execution. So coming in, working with that CEO, president, owner, founder, diagnosing where they're at, where they want to get to, what issues are preventing them from getting there, issues around their plans, their people, their processes, their technology.
It's a lot more than just revenue, though.
It's a lot more than revenue. It's all these things that add to revenue you got to have in place.
Yeah.
So once that's done, okay, we can start the engagement. So it's kind of like a whiteboard session that I do with them to really script it out and build out a definitive scope of work. We know exactly what we're going to do when my firm comes in so we can execute things and grow your revenue. Hugely important. We don't engage without it.
Yeah.
Okay? Then coming in, we got to get to know the team. What's the leadership team look like? What's your marketing team and efforts look like? Your sales team and your people?
Yeah.
You know, we got to get to know them. And truly, we need to help them build clarity, build confidence, and really, we got to build trust with them. That's huge. Because whenever you come in new as, call yourself advisor or executive, there's an inherent amount of distrust.
Yeah.
It just happens. People are always apprehensive. Okay,
like,
what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What does it mean to me?
Am I going to lose my job?
What's the impact to me?
Yeah.
They always do. So I use the phrase, I say, I'm nobody's friend for 3 months.
Yeah.
But get to know them and working with them authentically, you can build trust.
Yeah.
Okay. After that point, you build out plans, big ones for the company, little ones for everybody so they know what they're going to do. Help them with execution. It's all about execution. It boils down to so much of day-to-day, week-to-week working with the teams. Marketing management, sales management, going on client calls, being with vendor partners as need be, working with the leadership team and advising the CEO, leading meetings internally from stand-ups and sales meetings and accountability and realignment meetings. It's all that. So it starts strategic, gets down to very, very tactical because that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where we make the biggest impact in the revenue.
Do you find that entrepreneurs struggle with that?
A lot of them do.
I mean, it's like the vision. A lot of people have vision.
Yeah.
But it's the actual execution of that vision that becomes the challenge.
Execution is the challenge because it takes dedication and perseverance.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs are visionaries. They have great ideas, but they bounce around with different ideas. They struggle with execution. They need partners that can come in and lead that execution every single week.
Yeah.
Even especially when you work with marketing people that are more creative and salespeople that are typically, well, we call them herding cats, because a lot of times they're all over the board. Okay, fine. But okay, let's stay on pace. Let's stay in the box. Let's keep executing. This is how we're going to get there. So it takes a lot of energy and effort to keep them on track.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears a little bit and, one of the things we talk about a lot on Digital Disruptors is how do you generate leads now in the digital world that we're in, and that's changing every day. It feels like it's
every day.
I mean, it's hard to keep up, and that's one of the things I love about Techie and David is he's really stays locked in on things that are working and trying new things. From we've been in business 28 years, Real Media,
right?
And so the way I used to sell and the way I do it now is completely different.
Completely.
And so it's a challenge for a small business like us to pivot to a new way of doing things. We need new resources and all those things. What are you finding? I mean, how is the digital landscape changing how you do things and what you're telling people?
You know what? It's the changing digital landscape or evolving has completely upended the entire sales and marketing playbook. Completely. In the past, go 20, 25 years ago, the sales process and salespeople led the discovery process. That all changed in 2008. What happened in 2008, Brad? Google.
Okay.
Google came out.
Yes.
Buyers started to become more informed, more educated. Buyers started driving the process. So, and what we find today is complete flip.
Yeah.
What we find today is your owners and executive level buyers, regardless of title, they're so much more informed that they make 85% of their decision before they ever see anybody. They've got an idea of their problems, an idea of the solutions they've already vetted. That's huge. That's enormous. Too many organizations are still functioning like it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, that marketing's here and sales is here.
Yeah.
They're not coupled like this, like they have to be today, or there's some, but they kind of decouple. They're not really seamless or really aligned. And your salespeople are still doing something called solution selling. Solution selling came out in the 1990s. It was, well, let's come in, we'll have a conversation, talk about your problems, and we'll offer you solutions. That went out the window when Google came out. It's done. You're just a vendor. You're not offering something they don't know. What works in today's world is you got to have the right marketing program with strong content and rules-based messaging that hits each person where they are. It's complex, but you've got to have it. And you got to keep doing it with all the marketing vehicles so you can stay top of mind, because their problem comes to here. Now I need it. Okay, you're down here. No problem. Warm them up.
And our attention spans are so
our attention
short.
spans are so short. But then on the sales side, what salespeople have to do when they can get that conversation, they've got to be impactful and bring value. The best way to do it today is they have to be a challenger. And that challenger style, they basically have a different view of the world. They offer different perspectives. They politely challenge the thoughts and assumptions that the prospect or client has. They like that conversation and they're okay with the uncomfortability of it. But we're stretching the prospect or client to find the blind spots. That's when there's value. And we help them find blind spots they didn't think of. Then you're in the value position. Then you can be their trusted advisor. If you don't, you're just a vendor. That's it. That's what they want. So it's a concept called insight selling. It's not a program like some sales training course. It's more a concept in how you know the business, the industry, the issues, the role. You have the persona, and you can actually have that hard conversation.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people can do that. But when you successfully do that, that's when you really are their advisor and they listen to you.
So do you find that you're helping companies figure out who the persona is of who they're selling to sometimes?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think a lot of companies actually realize that.
They need to know their buyer and the buyer's MO and who they are personality-wise, as well as how they're going to function with you. I have all the client companies I work with and the sales teams grade from A to F what the level of engagement is with those buyers. A, they bring you into strategic meetings. B, they kind of tell us the strategy. C, well, we kind of come and go. All the way down to F, they never meet with us. We got to grade each one of those key executives that we're trying to influence. That's very important to know. Otherwise, you're ping pong balling around.
And anything that you're doing marketing wise, digital marketing or whatever, if you don't understand those things, you're not going to be successful, right?
Correct.
Or maybe you're lucky every once in a while.
Well, luck is fine, but that's not hope is not a strategy, and facts are my friends. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Yeah, so that's very interesting. I think one of the things that we talk a lot about here at Real Media is strategy.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people, it used to be, it's like, well, I just need a video on my website, or I just need this video or whatever. Now it's like, I want to drill down to who those personas are. What pain are we helping them solve? You know, what's the message? What do we want them to do?
Yeah.
Where are they online? We talk about all those things. And a lot of times I'm going through that session with somebody and they're like, well, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It's like, and you're doing content, there's no way it's going to be successful.
We've become so conditioned first as consumers, because think about it. You go onto Amazon and you're looking for, Nike tennis shoes or ink cartridges. What comes up next? And they're serving content that's relevant to you.
Yeah.
We've been ingrained with that now, that we want something that just pertains to us. When you come to the business to business world, every CEO, president, owner, founder, executive level buyer, or even purchasing manager, whatever, they all dial in the same radio station.
Yeah.
WIFM. What's in it for me? Is it for me? They all do.
Yeah.
We have to figure out their language of the radio station and serve it to them. That's part of the complexity of today's sales and marketing world. And a lot of people are scared of that, and they don't want to go into it because they're afraid of what it's really going to take. You have to do it. Then you can be in the pole position.
What does it take to figure that out? I mean, it's a lot of research on the brands that you're wanting to work with, right? I mean, you're really having to dig in as a salesperson, learn as much as you possibly can before you even have a conversation, I would think.
Yeah. For me, as CEO of the company, I have to know that client company's industry, the issues. I need to understand personality styles, which I get certified on, so I could relate to people.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. Also, you need to understand psychology, because there's points when you talk to a CEO, figuring out their fear factor. They may be afraid to grow to a certain point. They say they want it, but there can be a fear factor. You have to understand all that. That's the psychology behind the business issues.
Yeah.
Then you diagnose the business issues. Then, of course, it comes forward with, okay, here's a plan. We can work together to make a positive impact in your company.
Yeah.
There's so much and so much complexity. It's not just, oh, I'm selling red widgets today. How many do you want? That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So when you're in the B2B realm and you're going to make a positive impact in their company, they want someone that can drop in as an executive who understands their company, understands the issues. They can drop in quick, make meaningful impact pretty quick, help grow it, and then leave the organization more improved than when they found it.
Yeah.
That's today's world.
Yeah. Very interesting. Have you ever thought about doing training content around these ideas?
Yes, I have.
I mean, honestly, this is something that every every business needs to know.
Yeah,
these
absolutely.
These types of things. So
yeah, there's things I'm starting to put together, but we can have a follow-up conversation on that. That'd be good.
So if there's a business stuck at a revenue plateau,
yeah,
where should they look first? I mean, what are things they should be looking at? Probably a variety of things, but what would you say?
First of all, every business hits a plateau at a certain point. You grow and then grow, and then it's never like this. There's always plateaus. It happens. Okay. That's not a bad thing.
I don't know about that. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I should throw that in there.
When it plateaus, the important thing is look internal. Look internal. So many CEOs and owners, they go, oh, we need to do a lead program. Oh, we need to hire more salespeople. No, stop. Look internal. Is your strategy aligned with your execution? Is that working? Okay. Are your marketing and sales really aligned? Okay. Are your salespeople following your processes, or are they just reacting to inbound noise?
Yeah.
Look at those three first.
Do you have a process?
Those questions. Do you even have a process?
Yeah.
The worst thing to have is a process and not follow it.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you can start to go through the paces of, okay, I'm the CEO. Here's the vision. Am I really living it? Ask those questions. Is the leadership team living it? Does that permeate the company? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's look at our plans. Do we really have a good plan for the company that we can actually execute? Think about it. Brad, if you're going to build a house, would you do it without a blueprint?
No.
Why would you build a company without a plan? Even down to being a salesperson with a sales territory, why would you try to build it without a plan?
Yeah.
You got to have that. But it's got to be an executable plan. That's key. Okay. Then it can go down to processes. Now, are you following your marketing processes to drive interest? Are you following your business capture or sales process to really add value to your prospects and clients and give yourself the best chance to win? So 3 questions on top, but then you've got to deep dive those areas.
That process takes how long for you to get to a point where you actually have a plan and are starting to execute it? Is it 3 months?
It depends on the company, and there's different ways to do it. If you look at an overall master plan for a company, it used to be a 6-month process. You can do it if you know the company, the industry. You can do it relatively quick today, especially with some AI tools to give you some starters, and there's frameworks that are there. So you can pull that together pretty quick, literally within 30 to 60 days max. Okay. It used to be 3 to 4 months. Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to working with sales teams, and we implement something called portfolio management, that it's a way of building a plan for each salesperson's area that rolls up to the bigger company plans, that way we can achieve said goals. Depends on how engaged the salesperson is going to be, right? But working with them instead of here, just build it, it's work with them on that weekly basis. And they build out really extensively from your business last year, this year, strategic accounts, revenue accounts, your prospects, you categorize them. It gets down to exactly how many meetings am I going to need every week to be successful. Building that out, that takes about a month, of consistent working with them. So then let's go in execution mode. So really, in engagement, you can say the first 60 days is really a lot of planning, but there's other things doing underneath as well in terms of getting to know the people and reviewing compensation plans, reviewing, their training plans, figuring out is the company basically got programs that add training and tool sets to them to help make them more successful. Yeah. A lot of, under the surface type look as well too. Yeah.
I want to switch gears. Just get a little bit of a curveball for you.
Sure.
On the digital marketing side, how important is it, for medium, small businesses, I know that, but the type of businesses that you're working with to have a strong digital portfolio of content of, maybe you're doing Google ads, maybe you're doing Facebook ads. I mean, that's the kind of the latest thing right now is Facebook ads are being very successful, and what's called video sales letters or VSLs. Have you heard
VSLs? Yep.
Yeah. How important is it with the companies that you're working with that they're thinking like that? You can't do it the old way anymore.
It's an important piece, but the reality is they need to think bigger picture. The most effective thing is to have a target mass marketing program. And you start with what I call your big M. Those are your strategies. You're offering how well it's in the marketplace, what messaging, what value do we need to provide. Those are big. You got to build your strong content that's roles-based, and then you're going to execute on all different vehicles. Digital's a key piece of that. Your website, your SEO, where you're posting on social media from a LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, depending on your company.
Yeah.
Okay, those are important, but there's other things that are important as well. What are you doing to warm up the population? And I say population is your buying pool, because the reality is we're usually hitting 3 to 5% of the people are actually ready to buy.
Yeah,
we got to find them. What about the 95%? What are we doing to warm them up through drip campaigns, nurture campaigns, webinars, CEO, owner, or if you call them project managers, project manager roundtables? What are you doing with all of these type different marketing events that are, live or digital to actually help warm that market up and work with your C's and B's to bring them closer to becoming an A?
Yeah.
That's important to have that entire strategy, the right content, execute all those vehicles, because you never know when one's going to work or the next one's going to work. And so many times we get flavor of the day, flavor of the month. Well, it's Google Ads now.
Yeah.
Well, in 2 months, it might be CEO roundtables.
Right.
You have to execute all of them. It takes diligence and dedication. You got to do it.
And resources.
So
for a small business, that feels like an elephant.
It can. Yeah.
And so what would you recommend to small businesses that, somebody that's seeing this say, well, I can't. Yeah. That's just too big for me.
Yeah. That's eating the elephant in one bite, right?
Yeah.
Well, step one is work with a professional that's been there and done it, and they can give it to you in pieces. You can't, when you craft all this, you can't execute all in one shot. Execute it over time to build it in place. And it turns up the lead. So have the right executive in place you can drop in that can make progress immediately. Number two, there's so many more tool sets today that we can use that's so much faster. Everybody clamors around ChatGPT. There's a lot of other AI tools. There are a myriad of AI startups, even in the marketing space. What you're going to see, I think, in terms of more of this digital adoption, the day of the marketing agency could be going by the wayside completely.
Yeah.
Because years past, it was an agency with 30 people and teams. They're writing all this stuff. You can do it with AI now. I know an AI startup here in Kansas City that they've been around 6 months. You can develop 30 days worth of content in 1 hour.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. So we're going to adopt more tool sets to actually do that.
It's a little scary for a video production company too,
A little scary, but utilizing those tools are important so we can make more videos, because VSL is very important, because we look at, the younger ones, they want that video. And the Gen X and the boomers and stuff, they're starting to gravitate toward that.
Yeah.
So, where they adopted faster, the mid-level and hires, they're kind of gravitating more towards it. Yeah. So it's fun the way it's changing. We have to sit back and say, okay, it's changed, it's uncomfortable, but nothing will continue. Change will continue as usual and accelerate.
Yeah. Unprecedented.
Yeah.
Right now, what's happening in this world with that kind of thing. So.
When you think about it, we're human beings. Naturally, we don't like change, right?
Yeah.
And someone's always going to fear it. Well, think about it. If you go back, thousands of years, human beings invented fire. Somebody was afraid of it.
Yeah.
Somebody adopted it, and they protected themselves, and they cooked meat with it, and they became healthier.
Yeah.
There's always a technological change that's going to happen. Are you going to adopt it, or are you going to fear it? Which one?
Yeah.
Make your choice.
Better adopt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right. The role of fractional leadership evolving. I see a lot of people saying, well, I'm a fractional COO, I'm a fractional CMO, I'm, fractional. It seems like it's something that's really kind of catching on, and maybe COVID drove that.
Yeah, that's a great question. The reality is the idea of fractional leadership, it's been out for over 100 years. Your accountant, your attorney, they've always been fractional. We just never called it that.
Yeah.
It started to gain steam in the late 1990s, early 2000s because, I think we can do this. We started to coin this term fractional, and COVID really made it accelerate.
Yeah.
But what's happening is companies are figuring out, instead of looking at it from a stopgap or an interim, they're like, hey, wait a minute. I can actually have bona fide leadership that I can plop into my company. They can parachute in. They know this. They can make impact quickly and help to grow my company and leave it better when they're done, as opposed to me hiring a full-time executive and wait 2 years for them to spin up.
No brainer.
The way it's going to change is the perception will change from that stopgap, or, you're just waiting around until you get a full-time job. Maybe there are some people doing that, but the perception is going to change to where, I can actually grab this experienced leader in this type of role, a COO, a chief revenue officer, whatever it may be, chief, VP of HR type thing, to make an impact in my company. It's growing. The small ones have been doing it. The medium sized are grabbing it. You're going to see it more and more and more. It's going to keep evolving and become more accepted.
Yeah. Do you find this is another little curveball for you? But your business model. I mean, you work with somebody and then finish that engagement, work with the next engagement, and that type of thing. That feels like a harder business model. Like you've got to go out and kind of kill what you eat type thing, and keep you got to keep feeding that engine.
Yeah. If you're going to be a fractional executive, regardless of what your flavor is, number one, you need to know that you are CEO. You are building a company. You can't look at it like I'm trying to go get a job. You're building a company, and you have to run your company like a CEO to where you're doing all the right things. Or if you got the funds, you hire it out. A lot of them start solopreneur and they have to do everything. Okay.
Right.
But you're running the company. Yes, you have to always be building your network, building contacts, prospects, marketing and selling to garner those. And then yes, with the engagements, they're a time thing. I have engagements that I've had for 4 years. We're still going because we're still growing, still working on getting there, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
I've had engagements that, okay, we started with 12 months, we finished in 9, and because in that one built new sales infrastructure, they need a full-time sales and marketing leader. We got that person hired, we transitioned, boom, they're sailing on. So that's okay. You have to realize that's the game. So we have this mindset from years ago that, okay, if I get this role or this job, I'm going to be there forever. We kind of grew up on that.
Yeah.
Well, that's changed because entire industries come and go in 3 to 5 years now.
Yeah.
So everyone's gotten a little bit shorter. I read an article last week said the average tenure of a CEO today is like 22 months.
Wow.
That's short.
That's crazy.
That's short.
Yeah.
So the landscape's evolving just like the technology's evolving.
Yeah. Just got to roll with it and
expect it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you expect it, it's a lot easier to deal with, right?
No. If you expect it, then you prepare for it, right?
Exactly.
And that's key. That's key.
Yeah, exactly. What's a successful engagement really look like results wise? What can you tell somebody?
The kind of a case study I have, it's an engagement I concluded, and I brought a few note sheets because I didn't want to forget important things. But I started talking to this manufacturing company April of 2024. They were at a crossroads. Sales have been going down for 4 years. They'd fired the VP of sales and marketing like 8 months before. The CEO took it over. He admittedly, he was stretched too thin and failing, and he had lost hope. So, very challenging, very challenging. When I got to know him very well from the whiteboard session, I thought, okay, we can make a good impact in this company, but it was going to be a challenging role, very challenging. And I took the role on knowing a lot of people would walk away from it. And then I found out afterwards, a lot of people did walk away from it.
Oh, is that right?
which is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. By June, I joined the company. Again, it's fractional. So the first thing I found was you had a complete fragmented sales team going different directions completely. No unison, no alignment. Marketing efforts that were haphazard as best. Okay. The company had no roadmap, no plan at all. Like, what are we doing? Everybody's showing up being busy every day.
But not really doing anything.
But not really making the progress they need to. Again, like I said, they were going down.
Mm-hmm.
That's a struggle. That's a big struggle. So, big thing is I want to make sure we can make an impact and give that CEO hope. So started working with the team, getting to know them. And it took about 3 months and built trust. And that was through working with them, helping them build out their plans, being with them on some sales calls, coaching them on a weekly basis, initiated the one-on-ones, bi-weekly, as well as a all-weekly stand-up. So we'd come together for intentionality. Built out a new compensation plan so they could be incentivized to actually make more. So they were excited because, hey, we can make more money. Great, let's do this. So they like that. So over the first 3 months, built trust with that outside sales team and trust with the marketing department. So that was very important. So
it's kind of the foundation to build everything else on.
It's a foundation. Then, the clarity, the confidence was there, but then trust came into bearing. That's when things really started to accelerate. That's when everybody starts listening. They start adopting things. And they're like, okay, hey, this will work. We even built out a new hiring program for them, including, role descriptions, the interview process, onboarding, had team members involved in that. So it wasn't draconian leadership down. It was, hey, look, this is a teammate. I want you guys and girls to meet this person. So huge. And listen to them. Because there was one case where we were going to hire somebody. They found out some things that it would not have been a good fit. Okay, great, done. So listen to the frontline people.
Yeah.
Have those hard conversations, but listen to them authentically. That was key. So another piece helped to build trust.
Yes.
That was enormous. We started implementing all these things with the big plans, little plans, started turning things up. So we stopped the slide, okay, got it stabilized. Okay, now we're into growth mode again, and everyone's mindset changed. From a survival mode to we can grow. We can do this. I saw the confidence start to come back in all their eyes. That was great.
Yeah.
So, okay, we can do this. Then we worked on hiring the full-time sales and marketing leader, which was always the plan. They all knew it. They all knew I was going to be there for a certain amount of time, which was great and fine. And the real cool thing is, when you do things like this, we're still called consultants as Fractional, okay? But, we engage for a certain time. Fine, we're not, but okay. When you get done with it, yes, of course, you earned, your retainer, your check, whatever it is. Giving them more is huge, and they recognize that. Those results started to come about because in December, the CEO gave me a very nice Christmas card.
Yeah.
And inside of it, he wrote a handwritten note that said, hey, thank you for being here. Appreciate your energy and drive, but mostly thank you for caring about my company. And then as we got closer to the end of the engagement, on the last day, it was, go in and meetings and the goodbyes and stuff. The entire office staff made me a handmade card, and everybody signed it with heartfelt notes on the inside.
That's awesome.
Brad, that doesn't happen, okay? I'm reading this in the meeting, and I stopped. I closed it. I said, okay, I'm going to thank you. I'll read this when I get home because I don't want you to see a grown man cry, okay? So that made it so worthwhile. That's above and beyond, engage together.
Yeah.
This is people working with people and just pouring into them as much as possible to give them more. So that's when you've got real success.
Yeah.
That meins more to me than obviously the compensation.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great story and great feeling.
Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
We need to wrap up here. Is there anything that any closing thoughts you want to talk about?
The big thought is the landscape's always changing. As professionals, especially in that sales and marketing arena, we always have to try to be on the forefront of it, to be an early adopter, to actually bring it into the fold and be in front of it, because our competition always will. Different techniques, different ways. We talked about insight selling. It's enormous today, okay? A lot of people can't do that. Okay, well, you're subject to being a vendor and margin erosion. Okay, but adopters can do it. If you're going to be a fractional executive, realize you are CEO of a company. You have to act like a CEO and do things like a CEO to really build it. If you start out solopreneur, which all of them do, you got to do everything, then you can find resources as you grow your revenue over time to take care of things so you can do that core of what you do best.
Yeah.
So that's key. And if you're going to grow, to have people involved, that takes you to even a different level. And I know several fractional organizations that have done that. So that's a goal for the Gansman Group, is to actually grow our staff and bring more in so we can serve more business owners.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
that's
pretty cool.
How would somebody get a hold of you, Michael?
They can reach out to me through my website, which is real simple, thegansmangroup.com. Contact info is on there, or they can just call me at my business number, which is 913-991-3671. And 913-991-3671. Just call. We can have a conversation.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here. It's I think I learned some things.
Cool.
So
Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you. I
enjoyed a lot of
it.
great information. I think it'll help a lot of people, and we need to be thinking a little bit differently moving forward. And if you're not, you're going to be left behind, kind of like the company you were talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate being here, Brad. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the Digital Disruptors Podcast. Be sure to share this content. Tell people about it. Subscribe. If you subscribe, you get all of our content as soon as it comes out, and there's lots more coming. So we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.